What is going on? It is Wednesday, April 5th, 4 p.m. in the Eastern time zone, 1 p.m. Pacific. And you know what that means. That means it's time for streaming on streaming. What's going on? Todd Sharp here, Principal Developer Advocate for Amazon Interactive Video Service. I am thrilled to be with you. Welcome to the stream. Very awesome to have you all joining me today. Very much appreciated. Can I express any more gratitude and let you know how excited I am to be here streaming with you all today? I am live today again on the road once again. I am broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia. Actually, almost kind of like hometown for me, seeing as how I live just 2 hours from here. It's kind of nice to come to a conference and not have to fly for once. But, you know, still close enough, or still far enough away that I have to get a hotel and kind of camp out here for a few days. But that's okay. I'm in the lovely AC Hotel in downtown Atlanta, very close to the Centennial, Centennial Olympic Park. It's a really beautiful park in downtown Atlanta, close to obviously where they had I think it's where they had the opening ceremonies for the Atlanta Olympics, which was, good grief, when was the Atlanta Olympics? In the 90s? Gosh, I don't even remember how long ago it was. So where are y'all at? Talk to me, chat. Tell me what you're up to, how your week is going, where you're viewing from. Let's have some fun and be interactive today, because this is a live stream about creating interactive live streaming applications. So let's make it an interactive live streaming stream here today. It is 85 degrees in Atlanta today, which is pretty toasty. It feels toasty, seeing as how it was like 50 and completely raining on Monday. The pollen is intense, out in full force. For some reason, I'm totally like beat and tired. I went to bed at like 7:30 last night, which is silly. All my friends were texting me, "Why are you not at the speaker dinner? Where are you at?" But yeah, I went to the hotel room and went to sleep. So I don't know if it's the pollen, the heat, the being on the road, something caught up to me. But anyways, enough about me. We are here to talk about Amazon Interactive Video Service, unless you want to talk about something else. Well, within range, within reason, on topic, let me know what you want to chat about. But if there are no general IVS questions, we will talk about today's topic. And it doesn't sound, I guess when you first hear it, it doesn't sound like a terribly exciting topic. But to be perfectly honest with you, it's an important topic, and it's something that sometimes it's the little features in an application that really differentiate one from another. The topic today is auto-playing Amazon IVS live streams. So what's the problem? What is the problem we're trying to solve? Well, when you create an Amazon IVS channel and you broadcast to that channel, you use our Playback SDK to embed a playback of that stream in your application, in your website. So typically when you do that and you embed the player and you load that page, you call the IVS player.load method and you pass it your stream URL, and then you call play. And if something is broadcasting on that channel, it starts to play. If something is not broadcasting on that channel, it does not play, which makes sense, obviously. If there's nothing to play, then you can't play it, right? Well, that's fine, but it doesn't create a really great user experience, does it? Imagine coming here to Twitch and you go to the Twitch, the AWS Twitch channel, twitch.tv/AWS, and we're off the air, and 4 o'clock comes and my crazy self comes on the stream and starts broadcasting. Imagine if nothing happened. Imagine if you had to reload the page or click a button to get that stream to play. It's not the end of the world, but it's not the best user experience. And with a little bit of code, we can improve that and make life a little nicer for our users. So that's what we're going to look at today. There's a couple approaches that I want to look at, and one is rather simple to implement, not a whole lot of lines of code. And the other is a little more involved, but what's the word? Maybe a little more elegant than the previous solution. So we'll look at both of those. I'll present them to you. It's not the only ways to do this, but certainly there are 2 ways that I came up with. If you have any other ideas, would love to hear them in the chat. But yeah, let's hop into it. So let me present my screen here. Chat, y'all are being extremely quiet today, which is unlike the normal Twitch chat. So somebody holler at me and let me know that you can hear me, that you see me, that somebody is here watching, because there we go. Jake Obson, hello from a colleague in Dublin. Dublin, amazing. Very cool to have you joining us here today. Kind of interestingly, my wife and I have been talking about taking a trip to your lovely country. I've never been to Ireland, but we are talking about this fall in October coming to Ireland, and actually also going over to Scotland and checking out the Highlands and the beautiful country of Ireland. So if you have any suggestions on places to visit, Dublin is obviously probably where we'd fly into, actually. But yeah, always wanted to go to Ireland. I've been to London, been to England, but I've never made it up that way. And here is a little, okay, definitely swing by Dub14 and say hi. Yes, we'll do that. Little trivia fact for you. My father, who's passed away, but his family, my father's great-grandfather or his great-great-grandfather came from the Isle of Man, which I'm sure Jake is very familiar with it, but for the rest of you, the Isle of Man is a tiny island. I believe it's like 30 miles across from one coast to the other. Tiny island in the Irish Sea between Ireland and England. The capital is Douglas, I believe. And my father's great-grandfather was the mayor of Douglas, Isle of Man, in the late 1800s, 1898, I want to say, something around that. So yeah, that's my connection to the Irish Sea. And I guess that's where the name Sharp comes from. I know there was some before that. I believe they were in England before they came over to the Isle of Man. But there's a small fact. Oh, Jake says, actually, no, AWS moved me to Dublin, so I'm a year and a half into my Irish adventure. Wow, that's amazing. I'm a little jealous, if I'm being honest, that you got to move to Ireland. Can you make them make me move to Dublin as well? Very cool. Very glad to have you. How's it, Em? Good to have you. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Wait a minute. I think I know who that is. That's another person who's in Ireland too, isn't it? If that is who I think it is, I believe that's another one of my friends in Ireland. Yes. Wait, no. Yeah. Yes. It is. I got Oracle to move me to Dublin. Jacobson. That is Mike Harrington. Hopefully you don't mind me saying that. I apologize, Mike, if you do. It's not Mike. It's not Mike at all. But wow, we've got an Irish contingent today. It's 9 p.m. I think, in over there right now. So there's probably a few pints been had by this point in the evening. Anyways, very cool. Very glad to have my friends from Ireland over here on the live stream tonight. So without further ado, you do have some US viewers. Chuck says, Chuck L33, do have some US viewers. Thank you. Appreciate you joining. Where are you at, Chuck? East Coast, West Coast, somewhere in between. Jake says, I think my team will be hiring soon for a position in Dublin. Nice. I love my job right now. That is as tempting as that may be. Chuck is in South Carolina. Excellent. Not too far from me here in Atlanta right now. Jake, very much appreciate the offer. 1,000,000% love working at Twitch and doing this work. So won't be taking you up on the offer to apply for that position, but maybe we can convince the Twitch organization to ship me over to Dublin. I would go in a heartbeat. It would be my wife that would need convincing to leave the States and my family, and of course my daughter is getting ready for college. Just went for some visits this week, actually. And my son will be right behind her in a few years, getting ready for college. Since we've gone off topic, why not? Do y'all have children? Do y'all have teenagers? Curious as to if you've gotten them into coding at all, and kind of what route you've gone for that. My son has been expressing a little bit of interest in code lately, and Dominic, my son, and he just finished a class in JavaScript at his high school, where he's kind of learned some of the basics, learned about functions and certain data types and things like that. Wow, Chuck says, what? My daughter is headed to Wake Forest. Very cool. It's a good school. Very cool. Yeah, Jake says, I bet she's not ready to leave everything behind for a nice cloudy and rainful island. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, my son, I've actually signed him up just 2 nights ago. I signed him up for a summer coding boot camp for teens through the University of Michigan. So gonna have him do that, and I believe they use Python in that class, which I think is a perfect language for beginners to learn about coding. He's kind of, based on some of the things I've told him, he's kind of leaning towards a DevOps career at this point, which I think kind of suits his personality and his skills. It's kind of that right combination of things that he's good at. But I do think Python would serve him well. Jake says coding is definitely an important life skill in 2023, can create a lot of amazing things with it. I totally agree. In addition to that, I believe my kid's high school is actually accepting coding classes as foreign languages. So instead of having to take a foreign language, they're actually supporting coding as an alternative for that, which I think makes complete sense. I think it's completely relevant area of study. It coding teaches so many problem-solving skills, and you use math, you use logic. I think it's a great skill to have for anybody, really. And Jake says, it's, in a sense, learning to code is learning a new language completely. It's a different set of, you know, it's completely foreign to people who don't know how to read code. So in that sense, it's like a foreign language. Chuck says she enjoys bio and chemistry. Oh, he says she's an engineer, but can't convince her to CS, and she enjoys bio and chemistry. That's awesome. So Chuck's daughter going to Wake Forest is enjoys bio and chem. My daughter, similarly, Chuck, is wants to major in biology and wants to be a doctor, which is amazing, which is awesome. She's would be perfect at it, and will do very well in that field. But chemistry is killing her right now. She's in AP chemistry. She's in 11th grade, and she's having a rough go with chemistry, which I told her, I'm not sure I've met many humans that chemistry comes easy to. It's not an easy topic. It's a tricky subject to master. It's a tricky subject to teach. I hated chemistry in high school, and I had I'll never forget my teacher. He was a PhD, which was weird. Why would you teach at a small little high school in northern Ohio when you've got a PhD in chem? But I hated it. And he graded on a curve, and his curve literally was like 45% was like an A. No joke. So, and I still got like a C or something in chem. So yeah, that's my chem background. Congrats, Todd. Thank you, Chuck. The school, Jacob says, the school I went to taught my native language, German, and English. Is your native language German, or is your native language something in addition to German and English? I used to skip German and spend the time teaching myself Linux and coding. I've never needed to use German, but the other two have been quite convenient to know. So I guess there is a third language in the mix there. My native language is Danish. Worden har du det? I speak a little Danish, very little. I read Danish much better than I speak Danish or understand spoken Danish. But yeah, I actually, yeah, jeg har det godt. Godt. Jeg har det fint. Very cool. Do we know each other, Jake? Have we met in person? Because I've been to Copenhagen, and you might be someone that I know. Bert says OMG. Chuck says I equate chemistry to JavaScript. Come on. Is it that bad, JavaScript? JavaScript is not that bad. Chemistry is much harder to learn than JavaScript. Bert says OMG. What are you saying OMG about? Is that I do know you at least. All right, so you know me. You'll have to message me and let me know your name, because there's a good chance that we met. If you, I do know a Jake that lives lived in Denmark. He worked for Lego for a small period of time. Oh, okay. Says I do not know you at least. Okay, you do not know me. Well, you know me now. We are now friends. We are Venner, as they say. Is that right, Ven? Yeah. You are my Venner. Gosh, the tense always messes with me too in Danish. Bert says OMG. What are you saying OMG about? Bert, my terrible pronunciation of Danish, or something else? Jake, are you a fan of the what is it? The Veterinarian's Midnight Snack, I believe it's called. If I found the right guy on Slack, I possibly sent a message to you there. There's 2 Todd Sharps in Slack, and I usually get messages to the wrong one. So I am not, I am Todd R. Sharp. I am not the other one. Or just Todd Sharp. I know he has his middle initial there. But yeah, I will check that out. I've got my Slack closed here. But you know what? Why don't we just remove this screen for a second if we're just going to be chatting for a minute, which I'm very much enjoying. Always love interacting and chatting. What else? Afrikaans is where it's at for native languages that aren't that useful. Yeah, it's probably not spoken by a whole heck of a lot of people, I imagine. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Isn't Afrikaans, though, like influenced by Dutch? Where am I getting that from? I don't know why that popped into my head. Speaking of Dutch, there are some awesome people from the Netherlands here at DevNexus, some friends of mine and some new friends that I met in the last day or two. The Netherlands, so DevNexus is a Java conference. For the most part, the talk I'm doing is focused on JavaScript, and they do have kind of a web track, but the talk I'm doing is about JavaScript and some of the lesser known features in JavaScript, things like geolocation, which is not, I guess, as lesser known, but the Gamepad API. Let me open up my battery status notifications. Serial. Did you know that there's a web serial API in JavaScript that you could use to read and write to a serial port? The full screen API, I've blogged about that. Let me get something real quick. Stand by. Cloud Exploring asks, Jake, is the Slack a public one? I might want to join. It is not. I'm 99% sure Jake is referring to the internal AWS Slack. So unfortunately, it's not. We should join. We should create a little IVS Slack channel, or there's got to be some kind of public AWS Slack channel, right? So got my little box here. It's got my IVS sticker on it, as you can see, of course. Wrong Todd, but he sent your handle. So yeah, you sent it to the wrong Todd. And funnily, as I said, I always get his messages. Interestingly, Todd Sharp, that works at AWS, lives in Atlanta and is clearly, obviously, in tech. I got a call from him one time years ago, 4 years ago, on my cell phone. And I don't know why I answered, because typically I don't answer like unknown calls, but I got a call from this number and I answered the phone and he's like, is this Todd Sharp? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, this is Todd Sharp. And I'm like, what? Is this some kind of joke? Like, who's calling me and claiming that they're Todd Sharp? And so long story short, I think some wires got crossed and a recruiter, I believe this is before he even joined AWS, and it was obviously well before I joined Twitch/AWS. But they're like, he's like, yeah, some recruiter apparently got, two Todd Sharps in the same metropolitan area, both in tech, both doing cloud-related things. Awful coincidence there. But anyways, long story short, he and I became LinkedIn buddies, and then I joined AWS after he joined. And yeah, we constantly get our wires crossed all the time. How's it says it is a sister language to Dutch with a bit of German thrown in there. Yeah, that's what I thought. So Afrikaans, languages are an amazing thing. We could talk all day about languages and be completely off topic. But so yeah, while we're deviating wildly from the topic, this guy right here is going to be part of my presentation tomorrow. And I've been meaning to demo this and actually kind of show how it's built on the live stream here. So if that's something you think would be interesting, let me know. But what it is a, let me tighten this up so it doesn't wiggle around there. Okay, so this is a servo 2 servos, one servo here and one down here at the bottom. And it does full pan and tilt. So I can do, I think, up to like, I don't know if it's 180 degrees or what, but it also does tilt. So this top servo controls tilt up and down. And I've got it kind of wired out here. And on top of it, I've mounted a Logitech Brio webcam. And what this guy does is it hooks up to an Arduino, and the Arduino gets plugged into my laptop. And as crazy as this sounds, it gives me the ability to pan, tilt, and zoom this camera. And obviously that camera is used to broadcast to an Amazon IVS live stream, which is cool. It gives you the ability to pan, tilt, and zoom your camera for your live stream. Now, the awesomer part of all of this is, yes, my custom PTZ camera. The awesomer part about this is how I control it, and that is with an Xbox controller. So I have that in, actually it's right here in my bag. I'm gonna grab that out. So I have my Xbox controller, and there's actually a gamepad API in JavaScript that you can use you pair this up with Bluetooth to your browser or to your machine, to your laptop. And in the JavaScript API, you have a gamepad connected event. And when that's fired, which is essentially if you're paired and the page loads, the gamepad connected event fires. But once that fires, you have access to all of the controls. So you in a request animation frame loop, you just basically every time something moves, every time a joystick moves or a button is pressed or the D-pad is pressed, you get events. So what I did was I mapped the up and down on the left analog stick to don't get ahead of me, Mike. You're stealing my you're stealing my thunder here. But no, exactly. Mike says you should see if you can let your audience control it via surveys and Twitch chat. That is exactly the progression of it, and where it would go next is allowing chat to control it via either just straight up messages, you know, left, right, up, down. Yes, that would be dangerous. Exactly. It could be, but it could be fun too. You know, I wouldn't stream in an environment that nothing was safe to see. But no, that camera could go crazy, right? I mean, you get enough people in that chat, it could be like doing circles and up and down and zooming in and out. But yeah, so I map up and down to the tilt function. I map left and right to the pan function. And then on the right analog stick, I map up and down to the zoom. So yeah, tell me, would that be a cool, actually, I think it would probably take a couple streams to kind of really show it all, but it's like the Big Bang Theory episodes where they let people control their lights from the internet. I never saw that, but that's actually another idea on my list of crazy ideas to do that, exactly that. Let chat control, or even respond to like polls or something and light up my neon light that I have at home behind me in my setup at home, light that up based on user actions. That's cool. Are you using AWS IoT things? I'm not using that simply because of the fact that I don't need the cloud for anything in this workflow. It's all done on here to control the servo, and the messages are directly through serial. So it's connected. Technically, I could certainly, and this is a Leonardo, which is not web enabled. But if I used, you know, something like an ESP8260, or this is a 32, isn't it? Yeah, ESP32 that has a Wi-Fi chip on board. I could certainly, you know, connect it up to the internet, use AWS IoT things. Yeah, and basically cloud enable it to, boy, man, my idea wheel is turning now. Y'all got me really thinking about the possibilities of all this. Yeah, technically you wouldn't even have to do the serial connection at that point because you get the messages directly onto this guy via an MQTT connection. Man, I wish I had like 20 more hours in the week to play around with all this stuff, because tons of cool stuff, tons of ideas and things to play around with. But yeah, so that's my PTZ. Chuck says, I've used the IoT button and Alexa button similarly. That's actually another idea on my list, Chuck. Jeff Blankenberg, who is the lead developer advocate for Alexa. I met Jeff last summer at a conference, and I've seen him a few times since, and got tons of ideas on how we could collaborate. I want to put him on bring him on the stream sometime. Alexa also does their own live stream here on Twitch, but yeah, so tons of ideas. It is 4:30. If you're just joining us, we have not talked a single bit about the topic of the live stream, but that's 100% okay. The chat has dictated the conversation today, and I've enjoyed it so far. But this is Streaming on Streaming, where we talk about things related to live streaming with Amazon Interactive Video Service. Today, we are going to talk about, once we get there, auto-playing Amazon IVS live stream. So let us do that at this point. So I've got this blog post, and I'll post a link. If you, Jacob says, I would love to see an AWS RTMP setup with 2 streams, primary and secondary, with auto switch over to the secondary if primary goes offline. Jake, can you send me that in Slack? Because that's another good idea. Interesting. I'd have to think about that a little more, but yeah, would love to have you message me that in Slack. So, all right, so here's the blog post, posting it in chat. And don't click on it right now, but if you want to check it out later on after the stream, if we don't get to everything, that is kind of your reference point for today's live stream. So, as we started to talk about earlier, live stream, if you go to a Amazon IVS page where you've got the player embedded and the stream is not online, you're not going to see anything until you reload the page and until you click a button. So we want to talk about auto-playing a live stream. So to demonstrate, let me show my editor. So I've got a live stream Amazon IVS channel. Here's the URL for that. And I'm on the wrong demo, my bad. Go over to here. So I've got my channel. This is the stream URL. I've embedded the IVS Player SDK version 1.18, which is the latest and greatest. And in the DOM content loaded listener, I call IVS Player.create. I attach it to a video element, which is this element down here. And then I call load, and then I call play. So I load, and load receives the stream URL. So in a perfect world, like I said, you hit this page, and if the channel is broadcasting, everything starts playing. But if you hit it and nothing is playing, as you can see, I've got a 404 down here in the console because it tried to load the playlist, tried to load the live stream, and it's 404. It's not found. It's not online at this moment. So one way we can handle this is to use polling, right? We could put in an interval to try to play the stream on a specified basis. So let's see what that looks like. So we'll cut out the load and play calls, and we'll put those into a new function, new method called play stream. And that way we can repeatedly call these 2 methods in our interval. Let's declare a few variables. Let's declare is playing as a Boolean, and play interval, which will be the interval that we use to loop. And in our playing and ended listeners, we can set is playing to true or false, based on whether the player has ended or the player has stopped. And this is going to be important because we don't want to keep looping. If we're playing already, we don't want to keep running that interval. We only want to poll when the stream is offline. So let's create another function, and we'll call this one poll for stream. And within poll for stream, we'll set play interval to a call to set interval. So set interval, as you most likely know in JavaScript, runs this first argument. The function passes the first argument, runs it on the specified interval, the interval specified in the second argument. So it will run this function every 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second, of course. So within our interval, we'll call play stream. So we've got this function. It will create an interval, and every 1 second, it will try to play the stream. So now, instead of calling load and play at this point, we can call poll for stream. When the playing event fires, we can clear the interval because we no longer need to poll. And we can set that play interval back to null. And in the ended handler, we can start polling again, right? Because if the stream goes offline for whatever reason, maybe internet has gone down or I accidentally closed the window, whatever it may be, we do want to start polling again because it could come back online, at some point. So I believe that's all we need to do. I think we should be good here. So if we reload the page now, you can see that every second, hopefully you can see that, every second we're getting that 404 log to our console. And that's why I said this may not be the most elegant solution to the problem, but it is a solution that certainly works. Excuse me, because the stream is offline right now, and it's not going to start playing at this point unless we reload the page. So if I come over here to my web broadcast demo and I click broadcast to get online with this channel, within just a few seconds here, this stream should start playing. And as you can see, it has started playing. So that poll has found that the stream is playing, and it's playing. So we don't have to reload the page. We don't have to click a play button. If I stop the broadcast and I come back over here, let me clear my console here. Once it catches up, we should see. Did I stop it? I did. Okay. So that player ended event should fire. It may not have fired for some reason, but it basically should start polling again at this point. So that's basic polling to autoplay a stream. Now, as I said, not exactly the most elegant solution, but it is a solution that works. The second option for doing this is using event bridge rules. And I've talked about event bridge rules in the past. I've blogged about them. And essentially, Amazon Interactive Video Service fires or gives you the ability to subscribe to certain events in EventBridge. And, you can basically subscribe to when a stream session is created, when a stream session is ended, when a stream starts, when a stream ends, stream failures, and starvation start and end, and then some IVS limit breaches, things like starvation, ingest bitrate, ingest resolution, things like that. You also get recording events. So if you have auto record to S3 enabled, you'll get notified when recording starts and recording ends. All very helpful and very handy events to take certain actions if you're building a user-generated content application like Twitch. These are all pieces of data that you would want to probably take action on at some point, you know, whether it's updating a database or storing your S3 recording path to your recorded videos on demand so you could play them back later on, those kind of things. So we can use this stream start event to and respond to that stream start event by calling a Lambda function. And in our Lambda function, we can take advantage of that event, the fact that we know that a stream has started, and we can send some kind of message to the page that the player exists on and tell it to start playing the stream, right? So we've gone from a polling approach, a pull approach, to a push approach, where we're only sending that message when it needs to be acted upon, and only to the connected clients that are listening for that change. So you could use any solution here. You could use any sort of push notification system, you know, whether it's PubNub or some other solution that's out there that you could use to send push messages to a web page. But the approach that I thought of was to take advantage of the fact that many times, most of the times, you're using an IVS live stream. You're also going to probably be using IVS chat. So you'll have a chat module on the side of the page, and that chat module will be where your users, as we have here on Twitch, where your users can chat and interact with the streamer. So there's a feature of the chat API called send event. There's a method called send event. And what send event does is I'm going to let you guess what it does. It sends an event to a chat room. And you do that by creating this input object, passing the chat room ARN as the room identifier. And simply because I don't know, but can you create custom topics for services in EventBridge? Chuck asks. That is a good question, Chuck. Can you create custom? We'll take a look at that in just a second. We'll get back to that. So send event, you send it a room identifier. We're kind of running short on time, so I should probably speed up. You send it an event name, and then any kind of attributes, key value pairs that you want to send along with that. So let's write a Lambda function that we can use to send that event when that EventBridge rule is fired. So to do that, we need to create a client, and that is the IVS chat client with the AWS SDK v3. Oh, I've already created it up here, but that's okay. I'll delete it. You do need the chat ARN to send an event to a specific chat room. So we'll create we have the client created, and in our function, the function will receive the event in JSON format, and this is what one of those events looks like. So the EventBridge rule will have a detailed type, it'll have a source, it'll have your account number, and the time of the event, the resources, in this case, the Amazon IVS channel that triggered the event, and a detail. In this case, it's stream start. I can create a rule for any event or a specific event. In this case, I've only created it for stream start. But if you had one that fired for multiple events, this is how you would differentiate which event it was. And then the channel name and the stream ID. So that's what this function, this Lambda function, will receive when it's invoked. So we need to create an input object. So we'll create that input object. And as I said, we need the room identifier, which is, in this case, I have an environment variable for my chat ARN. We need an event, well, we need an event name, and this is just a custom string that you can specify in your function, and any attributes that we want to pass along. So attributes, and in this object, what I'll do is I will stringify the incoming event. So that incoming event, as we looked at above here, this event, we'll send that along with this event to the chat room. And then we do a request to send event command, pass it the input, and we'll get a response by awaiting a call to client.send, passing it the request. And that's it. So what I'm doing here is, as I said, sending an event to this, any connected clients to this AWS, this IVS chat room. Pardon me. And these are received on that WebSocket connection, just like chat messages are received, with the only difference being they have a different property called event. Event name, event. We'll look at it in just a second. I forget exactly what it's called, but it has a different property. I think it's type. Type. I think the default is message, and I think the type for chat messages and for events, the type is event. And then it also receives the event name. Anyways, it will be received. So basically, we're kind of using chat like a message bus at this point. And but in addition to using it as a connection for chat messages, we're using it to send kind of like meta events to the channel. And this is similar to how chat moderation works with IVS chat. When you publish a disconnect user event or a delete message event, it is also received as a event that you can respond to. And in the case of delete message, you probably want to delete the message from your UI and not have it be visible any longer. In the case of disconnect user, you would pass the user ID of the user to disconnect, and you would take action. You would disconnect that connection. So yeah, it's a nice way to kind of send messages to a web page. Why are you wearing hat indoors, old man? Now you've got me wondering who you are, G4 good looking, because there's only one person on this earth that calls me old man, and that's my son. So but I know you're not my son because I know his Twitch handle. But why am I wearing a hat indoors? Because I'll tell you why, G4 good looking, because I had my hair done earlier, but I was so super tired. I was so super tired that I had to take a nap. So I came back at lunchtime and I took an hour nap and my hair got all messed up. So I had decided to throw the cap on. Ban. Patat says ban. G4 good looking says, if you are rich, I can be your son too. I am not rich, but maybe I can move to Ireland and find the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and then I'll be rich. So I'm using SAM, Serverless Application Model, AWS SAM. The hat helps him connect with the youth, exactly. And in my SAM template, the YAML file, I declare my function. I pass it the chat ARN to, and that way it's available as an environment variable in my Lambda function. I tell it the handler, in this case stream started, which is the name of my function over here. And I have a Lambda layer for that includes the AWS SDK. So you have to use layers when you're using the AWS SDK for JavaScript v3. So I've got that layer referenced. And then I have right here, I can actually define my event rule right in my YAML file, which is nice. You don't have to create it manually. You don't have to create it with the CLI or separately with the SDK. You can actually define it here. So I give it a description. I tell it I want to use the default event bus, and then I define the event pattern. So in this case, the source is aws.ivs. The detail type is IVS stream state change. The event name is stream start. And then the name of my rule is demo stream started. It is enabled. And then my targets are the Lambda function. So that Lambda function that we declared up here, stream started, we reference that here in the event rule. So it's going to trigger that Lambda function. Thank you, Jake. The hat makes him look cool. Appreciate that. And then you tell it the permissions for events to invoke Lambda. So essentially, we need an STS or a basically permissions for the event rule to invoke the Lambda function. What? Man, you have such smooth skin. Do you follow a strict beauty routine or something? The way you're trolling makes me feel like you are my son, because my son would troll me like this. A smooth skin. I thank you, I guess. Appreciate that. I do not follow a strict beauty routine. I just drink water and try to live clean, as they say, and drink plenty of coffee. That's my routine. So running this template will get me my Lambda function. It'll get me my event bridge rule, and assign all the necessary properties to that. So if I come over here and I look at demo stream started, this is an event bridge console in AWS. I can kind of see the result of running that. I'm not going to run it right now in the interest of time, but this is the result of running that. I have a, same thing you saw in that template, in that YAML file. You have the detail type, you have the source, the detail, the event name. The targets is the Lambda function that it's going to invoke. And if I click on that and go to that Lambda function and see that code, which should look pretty similar to, actually, this Lambda function is part of a serverless application that I have all kinds of other functions in here. So stream started, okay. So if I find the stream started function, it looks just like I just showed you. I have a chat ARN, the stream started event, and we just published that via send event command. So, so I've got my rule, I've got my Lambda function, and now every time I go live, I should get that event fired, and it should call my Lambda, and it should send an event to my IVS demo chat room. We can confirm that. I have this demo over here, and if I open up, let me bring that down a little bit. So if I come over here, so this is my on message handler for my chat room. In this particular demo that I have above, I have my chat over here, and I have my video on the left. So this is my message handler. And if it's a typical chat message, if data.type equals message, oops, I render it out to the chat div and typical chat flow. Where let me reload this page actually to get a fresh connection, so my token's not expired. So typical chat. Let's throw a breakpoint here, and let's say test. And you can see that on the incoming message, the data type is message, and I have my chat message coming in. So just breakpoint confirms that everything's working as expected here. Now, if I scroll down a little bit, I'm looking for if data.type equals event, and then I do a switch case. So as I said, if you have a delete message event, you can remove that message from the DOM. If you have a disconnect user event, you could take action on that. But here's my custom one. This is my stream started event that I published via the SDK. So if all goes well, and I start a stream, within a few seconds, that event bridge rule should fire. It should call my Lambda. That Lambda should publish a event to this chat connection. And in that chat connection, as you can see over here, I'm checking for a specific channel. Obviously, if this will fire because I didn't specify the channel name in my EventBridge rule, it's going to fire for all channels in my account. But in this case, I'm checking for a specific channel name, and if it's not playing, I call play stream, which is just calling the load and playing the stream with the IVS player. Intellect Devourer says a couple questions. I'll get to those in just a second. So let's try this out. Let's see if it works. So if I come back over here and I start broadcasting, within a few seconds, we should get this event fired. Now there's a little bit of and there it is. There's a little bit of a delay with the process, but it's not terrible. It was about 4 or 5 seconds there, which is, I think, acceptable. So I have my stream started event. If I open it up and look at the attributes, it has that JSON that was part of the EventBridge rule trigger that I passed back. And if I continue past that breakpoint, my live stream is playing. So auto-playing with Amazon IVS, 2 methods, polling and using EventBridge rules. The blog post I will post again in the chat if you want to read more and you want to try this out for yourself. And got 5 minutes here, so let's look at some of these questions. Do you think Lambda cold start delays the trigger much or not noticeably? For JavaScript, for Node, Lambda functions, I think cold start is not even it's not a thing. I mean, JavaScript Node functions start up so fast. You're looking at, what, 300, 400, 500 milliseconds on a cold start tops, I would say. So if you were going to do a Java function, maybe there would be a little more noticeable, but there are ways around that as well, using something like GraalVM and pre-compiling your I don't even actually, yeah, I think you can do that with Lambda, but there are ways around it. But I don't think overall cold start delays are going to be a concern, especially if you're talking about, if this is a one-off thing where you've got one channel and you're trying to autoplay it. But even then, I don't think it's going to be noticeable or even bothersome. But if you're talking about a Twitch-like user-generated content platform, you're never going to have a cold start. I mean, that thing is going to be firing probably, hopefully, all the time. Assuming you have lots of content creators creating. Jake says, I think Lambda recently introduced ways to pre-init your Lambda so they cold start even faster. Absolutely, that's right. I forgot about that. I'm not a huge user of Lambda. I use it here and there. But that is true. I can't remember exactly how they did it. There's some kind of black magic, but I don't think cold starts, especially in Node functions, I don't think they're that big of a deal anymore. Intellect Bauer says the event names are constants by AWS. The event names that relate to specific actions like deleting message and disconnecting users are constant. But if you're talking about anything sending a custom event, so again, for example, the custom event that I sent here, that's up to you. That's user defined. You could call that whatever you want to call it. You call it Chuck or Intellect Devourer if you wanted to. That's your prerogative. As long as you just find that same name on the client side when you listen to it, then you're good to go. Jake says, I work with Lambda every single day. Awesome. I think it's great technology. I just don't get a chance to play with it too much, which but when I do, I always enjoy it. This is a very educational topic. Interested in your game controller demo and good chatting pre-topic. Thank you, Chuck. I very much enjoyed the conversation today. Thank you all for participating in the chat. It was very fun. Is educational for me. I found someone that speaks Danish that also works at AWS that probably is laughing heartily at my horrible pronunciations. And so, yeah, It's been a fun stream. Appreciate y'all joining. Join us again next week, where we will talk about yet another fascinating topic related to Amazon Interactive Video Service. And I will schedule that game controller webcam PTZ live stream for a future stream or two in the future. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe and like and notification and all that stuff. And we will see you next week. See you later.